It gives them a way to give their money away and get rid of the murcha that they have, the attachment that they have for their wealth, and thus reduce their parigraha sanya.
Okay, okay. So while doing this, one must not strive to earn more.
No, no, of course not.
Yeah,
While
okay,
doing
okay.
this, the only reason those who give money expecting to get something out of it, even if they get ordinary punya by way of that done, that the parampara that will result from such done is always going to be a bad one, a disastrous one.
Yeah, okay, okay. I get it now. Thank you.
Should we begin at 3:05? Okay, perfect. Okay, it's 3:05. Let's begin. Namo Arihantanam, Namo Siddhanam, Namo Ariyanam, Namo Ojjayanam, Namo Sarvasahunam, Eso Panchanamukkara, Sarva Bhava Pranasana, Mangalanam Cha Sarvisam Padama Bhavi Mangalam, Namo Dharvada Ragadi Vairivada Nivarine, Parhate Yoganathaya Mahaviraya Jaine, Pannaveja Surendreja Koshiki Pada Sanspashi, Nirvishesha Manaskaya, Shri Veera Swamine Namo. So the last time we completed the second sutra of Shri Panchasutra, which was Sadhu Dharma Paribhavana Sutra. Sadhu Dharma Paribhavana Sutra was in the form of describing how a Shravak practices Deshvarti, and by this practice of Deshvarti, he eventually attains the strength to take and practice Sarvavirti. In the very beginning, we saw how Parinam, the word Manorath, and the word Bhavana, although synonymous to a certain degree, have different meanings of their own. So, although every Shravak has the Parinam, has the Manorath to take Diksha, it might not always be the case Shravak has the Parinam to take Diksha. If we look at it the other way, every Shravak who has who does not have the Manorath to take Diksha is not in the technical sense fit to be called Shravak. But it is not appropriate to say that every Shravak who lacks the parinam of taking Diksha is not a Shravak. Which is why in the scriptures, when we talk of the four Nikshepas, Nam, Sthapna, Dravya, and Bhav, uh, it is generally understood that when the Bhav Nikshepa of a particular thing is pure, it is Shuddh, the other three Nikshepas are automatically Shuddh as well. So, leaving Bhav Nikshepa on one side, we have Nam, Sthapna, Dravya, and Bhav. Uh, Nam, Sthapna, and Dravya, Michami Dukhanam. So, we have Nam on one hand, uh, we have Sthapna after, and then we have Dravya. So the simple logic to be understood, generally speaking, is that Sthapna exceeds Nam and Dravya exceeds Sthapna. Everything that follows is greater than the previous one, the previous Nikshepa. And of course, Bhav Nikshepa is the main one, so nothing beats Bhav Nikshepa. Let's take the example of a Jin Pratima or Jineshwar Bhagwant. In Sure, I'll do that. Thank you, Arpit. Bye. So, in case of Jineshwar Paramatma, when we take the Nam Nikshev of Bhagwan, that is the different names of Tirthanga Paramatma, such as Rusha, Bhajit, Sambhav, etc. Sthapna could be in the form of Jin Pratimas, pictures of Paramatma, etc. Dravya could be in the form of Bhagwan's previous and future avasthas in the form of Siddh Bhagwan and in the form of Bhagwan's previous births, or Bhagwan before becoming Tirthankar, before becoming a Bhav Tirthankar. Similarly, when we talk of a Sadhu Bhagwan, uh, it is important to understand that Shravaks who have the parinam of taking Diksha are Dravya Sadhus. And which is why in a lot of places, Shravaks are referred to as Dravya Sadhus in the scriptures. So it's important to keep that in mind. Now, after the second sutra, uh, towards the end of the second sutra, we saw how beautifully a Shravak engages in a thought process of wherein he contemplates about the nature of the sansar, the nature of his dharma in this sansar, and he confidently thinks, oh look, by way of practicing this dharma, uh, day in and day out, the vrat and niyam that I took previously are now becoming purer and purer. The quality of my dharma is becoming more and more refined. The Shastrakar Bhagwans note this down as points for us to think about, because they have the conviction in us that we will also take these vrats and niyams from Guru Bhagwans, and by practicing them in accordance with the agnya that is laid down in the scriptures, we will also be able to honestly experience and state to ourselves, obviously not to the world at large, with a lot of conviction and honesty, that the dharma that I took so much time ago, that dharma has become that dharma has become more refined, it's become purer, the quality of that dharma is increased. And with that, gradually, the Shravak in question, his virya also starts developing by practice of this dharma consistently. And there comes a point when he has now attained the parinam of taking Diksha. So the second sutra was Sadhu Dharma Paribhavana Sutra, wherein the Shravak was doing paribhavana, or he was reflecting holistically about the nature of sadhu dharma, and he was prepping himself for it. Now that he's completely prepped, he's completely ready. The third sutra that we begin now is Pravrajya Vidhi Grahan Sutra. Pravrajya Grahan Vidhi Sutra. The sutra which lays down the vidhi of taking Pravrajya. So to establish the connection between the second sutra and the third sutra, the Tikakar Bhagwant himself, he says that the connection is as follows, that after accepting the dharma gun stated in the second scripture lays down what a shravak should do. By doing that, the jeev becomes paribhavit with sadhu dharma. So he becomes his atma becomes infused with sadhu dharma of sorts, and with that, this atma, the word that is mentioned here, is that he has an utkrush bhavna of taking sadhu dharma. Because his atma has become infused with sadhu dharma in this manner, he should act accordingly. And for that, the Sutrakar Bhagwant in the very beginning lays down Paribhaviye Sahu Dhamme Jaho Diya Gune Jaija Sammameyam Padivajjitaye. That by following the Vidhi laid down in the second scripture, the Atma who has become Paribhavit by Sadhu Dharma and who has the requisite qualities. What are these requisite qualities? The Sutrakar Bhagwan himself specifies them. He says that this person should be detached from the sansar. He should be samvigna, that is, he should have a desire for moksha. He should be a mama. A mama is basically free of mamta. Uh, he should be a paropatapi. He should be vishuddh, that is, he should be rather pure. And Vishuddhaman. We saw the word Vishuddhaman towards the end of the last scripture as well. That is, his Vishuddhi should be gradually increasing. His Shubh Bhav should also be gradually increasing. It should be on the increment. And this person now starts endeavoring to accept Sadhu Dharma in accordance with the Samyak Vidhi of the scriptures. So, a question here that Shreyan's Bhai asked is sorry, I just lost it. Okay. It was, please define Virya as per our scriptures too. Virya, in a very crude sense, refers to semen. Virya also refers to the inner, now this virya that is in the form of semen, according to Ayurveda, also if it is not let out, it also gets retained in our body, and it adds on to the natural strength of the body and of the atma. So that is also virya in terms of energy. But the virya that is being talked about here is in the form of abhyantar virya, which is in the form of the energy of the atma itself. This virya is hindered by the eighth type of karma, that is antray karma. So we know that viryantray karma is one of the five types of antray karma as well. So the more antray karma we destroy, the more we get rid of viryantray karma, the virya of the atma naturally stems out, which is why Siddha Bhagwans who have destroyed, in fact, even Keli Bhagwans have destroyed Antray Karma altogether. Their Virya is also infinite, which is why their name, the quality of Anant Virya resides in them. Now, how should he make effort? So that is specified by the second sutra. He should make an effort to accept sadhu dharma in such a way that others do not suffer. Now, this is very important to understand when we talk about suffering. And then the Sutrakar Bhagavan says, Parovatavo hi tappadi vatti vigham. That paropatap, that is causing santap, causing hurt or causing suffering to others, is like an obstacle in accepting sadhu dharma. Then he further says that par santap is never a solution in accepting dharma. Because by starting something that is not appropriate, it will not cause welfare to the jeev. And in accepting dharma, that is in accepting sadhu dharma, par santap is a kushal aram. It is a you're basically starting off on the wrong foot. So in taking diksha, without there is no other obstacle apart from par santap. Which is why he says that if you want to take diksha, you do it in a way that others aren't, that you don't cause others any harm or any suffering. Now, this suffering is very different from the suffering that we probably think of, because the moment we talk of taking diksha, and there's the question of suffering involved, our mind is immediately drawn to, thanks to the internet more so, the parents of the diksharthis, the family, or the dependent persons. How are they going to feel? They're going to mourn their eyes out. All of this is suffering, right? So if the diksharthi is taking diksha and he's making even a random person cry because of that, a random person mourn because of him taking diksha, then he's at fault, and this diksha is not appropriate. This is what we would probably think, but this is not what the Sutrakar Bhagwan is saying. So immediately after stating this, he comes to the topic of the diksharthi's parents. So in the very beginning, the Sutrakar Bhagwan and the Tikakar Bhagwan together, uh, they say, Apadi buddhe, kahinchi padibo hijja amma piyare. When a person is ready to take Diksha, or when a person has become imbibed with Dharma, generally speaking, unless the influence of Moha is very alarmingly large, it often so happens that uh, the person who wishes to take Diksha has become imbibed, his Atma has become infused with Sadhu Dharma. But uh, unless there's it also happens, it also so happens that the environment around this person, his immediate friends, his immediate family, they also become imbibed with dharma to a very decent degree. Now this is the general understanding that we have. There could be exceptions to this, and there very many times also are, but this is because of the complexity of karma of those jeeves. We can't blame the person who's imbibed with dharma for that, because this is the case even in times of the Tirthankar Bhagwans when they take Diksha. Uh, let's take the example of any Tirthankar Bhagwan, with the exception of Shri Mahaviraswamy Bhagwan, uh, and perhaps if you take Rishabh Dev Bhagwan for instance, uh, we're excluding an Abhi Raja here. Several Tirthankar Bhagwans have taken Diksha in the presence of their parents, in the presence of their immediate family, and whenever they have taken Diksha, it is no news that their parents have cried, or the Kul Mahattara, the elderly woman, the elderly lady of that Bhagwan's family has, cried and given his shiksha. If we take the example of Mahavir Swami Bhagwan, we all know how Nandivardhan Maharaja has mourned after Bhagwan took Diksha. And in fact, even the shloks in the Kalpa Sutra that are added by Sri Vinay Vijayaji Maharaja in this regard, they are so beautifully put. Uh, he says Bhagwan, he tells Bhagwan that oh Veer, without you, whom will we look at? Because in this entire palace, you were the only object worth looking at. And such beautiful stuti he does of Paramatma. But ultimately, there's still some rag uh, in this stuti. There's a sense of lament, there's a sense of mourning in this stuti. So, what does a person do when they want to take Diksha? How do they ensure that they do not cause any suffering to a particular person? Ordinarily, the mother and father of the mumukshu, uh, the Diksharthi, also have a desire to take Diksha, because this person's behavior, even at home, is such that even by way of his achar, he helps other people understand Dharma. This is more so the case with Sadhu Bhagwans themselves, which is why the Shastrakar Bhagwans even say that, uh, for instance, when a Sadhu Bhagwan has to go for Gochri, it is not even an injunction upon him to do Vyakhyan at that particular time. If the time of the Vyakhyan is such that it clashes with his Gochri, it is mandatory for him to go out, set out for his bhiksha, and not engage in Vyakhyan, because the achar of a Sadhu Bhagwan itself is so influential, so powerful, that those who witness it will also naturally breathe Dharma. They'll also experience Dharma to a very good degree. By seeing that achar, they'll have a sort of bahuman for that Sadhu Bhagwan, for their particular uh, achar of charitra, and with that alone, their bahuman for the Dharma propounded by Jineshwar Bhagwan will increase. So naturally, uh, applying a similar logic here, even the Moksha Atma, who has now learned to tame his Indriyas, who has obviously attained Samyak Darshan, and who is also practicing, in this case, the different frats of Sadhu Dharma, of Shravak Dharma, Machami Dukada. On seeing him, on seeing his achar, the way he speaks, the way we saw in the last session, how a Shravak restrains his man, vachan, kaya, how he uses his words only to speak that which is truthful, and that which is soft and appealing to other people, and also for their welfare. So if you see their behavior, it is not something that's very surprising that their parents would also want to take diksha with him, which is that the Tikakar Bhagwant writes that this person who is mahasatvashali, his sattva is great. This mahasatvashali person, um, he doesn't have to go out of his way to enlighten his parents, because his parents are naturally, they have been enlightened about the about the desolate nature of the sansar. But now, because karma is complex and one cannot predict what karma could be like, in such a case, if the parents have not understood the nature of the sansar, he tries his best to, make them understand how sadhu dharma alone is worth taking. So for that, 10 different points as such are given in the sutra to, have a conversation with your parents about this. So he, uh, he tells his parents in this manner that, uh, O mother and father, in this world, only that life is worthy of praise, which is beneficial not only in this life but also in the hereafter. Karmas that are bound together also give fruit together. We have heard this rule several times. We also have heard several examples of the scriptures wherein, people, a gathering of people, a mob or a congregation, they did some paপ together and they had to suffer altogether. We take the example of Ajitnath Bhagwan's nephews, the sons of Sagar Chakravarti, 60,000 people. This congregation, they did a paप together in their previous life, and as a result, they all of them had to burn together to death in their following life. So, uh, what he's saying here is that when we do samudayik activities, when we do congregational activities together, because of that, we get a chance to meet again, even in the next life. Now, this sansar is such that we have been together for a finite number of time here, but if we don't go together on this path, it will often so be, will end up splitting our ways and will probably never meet again. And he gives the example of, of the birds uh, of the group of birds, a flock of birds, how all of them come together on it, which dawn, all of them come together on the same tree, on the same branches of a tree, and they sit together. They cackle around. But as soon as the sun sets, all of them they fly away in different directions, and the flock is dispersed. So he's saying that you and I, we're similar to that, to those birds. We've come on this tree in this birth for a definite number of time, and now if we don't do anything together, chances are we'll never meet again, and we'll have to suffer the pain of separation, for time immemorial. So, because death is inevitable, and as we near death, our separation is also coming closer and closer. With that, there's another layer of complexity. This is assuming that the human birth will be attained by us again, but that itself is rare. He says that the human birth is so rare that it's like tossing a diamond in the ocean and then expecting to find the diamond back. So, then he also substantiates this with the narrations of the scriptures. He says that in the scriptures we hear that the lifetimes or the kai sthiti is how long a particular jeev can be in a particular type of yoni or a particular type of place. So he says that the kai sthiti of Prithvi Kai, Apkai, Tevkai, etc. Uh, it's countless years. It's Asankhya, Utsarpini, and Avsarpini. With respect to Vanaspati Kai, it is Anant, Utsarpini, and Avsarpini. Such a long time. But when it comes to human life, it is very limited, it is very definite. Similarly, attaining Charitra in this birth is extremely difficult. And now we have attained such circumstances that, we can altogether take Charitra and practice it to the fullest. And moksha is the only goal that all of us should have, because moksha is that one place where there is no birth, no death, no old age, no disease, no suffering of any sort. So we've all been together for such a long time, so let's continue walking on that path and, eventually go further and further. And then he says, uh, kareha me anugraham, please show some compassion on me, show your grace on me. And he's not saying this by, he's not saying give me permission. He's explaining it in the immediate next sentence. Ujjamaha ayam vuchindittai. He's not saying you give me permission, I'll go. He says, do me a favor in this manner. You also come with me and you also try destroying the sansar with me. Ahampi tumhanu maiye sahemi ayam. with your permission, with your consent, I will also destroy the sansar. You see the way in which he's proposing all of this one by one. There's so much Bahuman in the language. And now, as opposed to this, some of us may want to take Diksha, or if you don't want to take Diksha, there could be circumstances when we want to do a particular dharmic anushthan. We perhaps we want to stay with Guru Bhagwan for a few days, or we want to do something or the other, uh, to which our parents might not be very inclined. But if things are put to them in such a smooth, gradual, flowing manner, and there's an earnest effort to make them understand what we want to do, and to add to that, we're saying you also come along with me. So we're bringing a feeling of inclusivity even in them, so they don't feel that he's going away from us and he's doing all of this. So this is there's truly a lot of wisdom contained in these words. These sutras are particularly meant for diksharthis, for mumukshus who want to take diksha and who want to convince their parents. But there's no harm in applying this wisdom even to day-to-day practicalities. And he further says that I am now tired of this sansar, and with the prabhav of you people, my mother and father, and other gurus. Guru here does not mean Guru Bhagwans, that is Sadhu Bhagwans. Here it is, Guru also means senior people. So, elders, teachers, etc. I will now, I'll be able to attain the moksha that I'm so desirous to attain. So by saying all of this, he tries to enlighten his parents. He tries to enlighten his spouse, or whoever is dependent on him, his other members of the family, and then he follows Charitra with his mother and father. An important statement that is mentioned here is he follows Charitra without any ashansa, without any desire for any fruit of this world or the next. So he does not desire to be a Dev, a Chakravarti, a Vidyadhar, etc. He does it purely and purely to attain moksha. And then he says, Ayam Parama Muni Sasanam. This is the Shasan of the Param Muni, of the Supreme Muni, which is this Shasan here refers to Pravachan. That is the word. This is the word of Vitrag Paramatma. Now, in case, because again, karma is complex, it might so happen that the mother and father are not desirous of taking Diksha. He may make several attempts, but this might just fail. So, in such a case, there is an alternative path that is shown for him. In such a case, according to his strength and according to the best of his wisdom, according to the best of his financial talent, he should make arrangements, for an income or for a gradual flow of money for for his mother and father. So this is specified in the sutra. He says, Abujja manesu akamma pariniye vihijja jaha satyam taduva karanam ao vaya suddham samaye kayannua khu esa karunaya dhamma pahana janani janammi to anunnaye padivajjja dhammam. So two words are mentioned here, I and upay. The word I refers to ensuring that there's a third person, could be a family member, could be a third party altogether, someone not part of a family, maybe a friend. He makes an arrangement with a third party, the third party being someone apart from the Dikshasi and his parents, obviously, who will, continue supplying or who will continue looking after the parents, who will ensure that they have the money and supplies and everything that they need to live in the sansar. And upay is defined as ensuring that there's a gradual income, by way of rent, by way of interest on a particular type of loan, etc. So in this way, he makes an arrangement for them. Now, this arrangement is made not because he wants to get rid of his parents altogether and he doesn't care about them, so he consigns them to their fate. But here it is very specifically mentioned that this is kayannua khuesa. This is krutagnata. This is the feeling of reciprocating the upkar of the mother and father. Because, and we've heard this countless times before as well, that in Granths like Prashamrati Prakaran, we hear that the upkar of the mother and father the Kalacharya, that is our teachers, uh, our employer, and also Dharma Gurus. All of these upkars are dushpratikarya. You can't return these favors easily. They are very difficult to reciprocate. So, it's not very easy to pay off their favors. And then Prashnamrati Prakaran further specifies that of all these four, the upkar of Guru Bhagwans is far, far more, obviously. Which is why even in this Samyak Darshan, the Sarsat Bol Sajjaya of Samyak Darshan by Upadhyay Ashwaji Maharaja, Upadhyaji Bhagwan says, uh, समदृष्टि गुरुतणो पच्चुवाय रणताय भव कोड़ा कोड़ी करी करता सर्व उपाय. Even if you take koda kodi births, that is crore into crore births, and you try every possible medium that is within your reach to reciprocate the upkar of a Guru Bhagwan who has helped you attain Samyak Darshan, there is no way you'll be able to repay it off. Right? So, uh, we're talking of the mother and father here. Even in their regard, if we look at grunts like Hitopadesh Mala, in Hitopadesh Mala by Prabhachandra Srishwaji Maharaja, there is a beautiful uh, description of Uchit Acharan, appropriate conduct that a Samyak Drashti should have. And there are several lists. We've discussed this briefly before. Appropriate, behavior towards his parents. If they are parents, then towards their children. Appropriate behavior towards their spouse, towards their siblings, towards their cousins, towards their uh, uncles and aunts, towards their citizens, towards their dharma gurus, towards saints of other religions, even. So all of these behaviors are very well regulated uh, in the scriptures, and this is not because here the scriptures aren't talking about Uchit Acharan so that a Shravak can prosperously live and he can maintain cordial relations with everyone so that he can earn wealth, etc. But solely and solely because he's Samyak Drashti, his behavior should also be one that reflects his Samyak Darshan. His behavior should be one that, reflects the bright principles of Bhagwan Shasan. So solely for that, the different ways in which he should behave with all of these people are also very well mentioned in the scriptures. There's even books on Uchit Acharan. They've been translated into Hindi as well from Gujarati, based on this Hitopadesh Mala. Definitely worth reading. Okay, so here we come back to the first upkaris in our life, that is the mother and father. In addition to bringing us into existence in this birth, there's and giving us all the essentials that we need, a very important upkar that most parents do, especially in Jain families, is the upkar of acquainting them with basic principles of Jainism. And generally speaking, those mother and father are also parents who have attained Samyak Darshan. So their faith in the Shasan is also extreme. It is overflowing, which is why Haribhadra Srishwaji Maharaja, in one of his grunts, he describes Jain families as the families of yogis. That is to say that a person who is born in a Jain family, they are naturally detached from the world. They are naturally meant to do sadhana of yoga. They are naturally meant to turn their face away from different objects of bhog, of different objects of the five senses. But today there's a grave anomaly. We see the exact opposite in most Jain families, or well, in most so-called Jain families. Regardless, to a very great extent, uh, even in so-called Jain families, there is a great degree of dharmic education that is important right from the person's birth, which is why even for that reason, the upkar of the mother and father is something that definitely cannot be reciprocated. So keeping that in mind, now that the Diksharthi is going to sever relations with everyone, including his parents, it is important that he shows his krutagnata towards his parents, and by doing that, by making an arrangement, to look after their well-being after the Diksharthi is gone from this world, he's doing just that. By making arrangements like this, he also ensures that Shasan Prabhavna happens, because if people see that the Diksharthi is set off on his path, but he has made no arrangements for his mother and father, and they are struggling in this world, it could, and not it could, it definitely would lead to a lot of Shasan Apabrajna. A lot of people would criticize the Shasan, a lot of people would talk bad about the Shasan. Oh, look, this person has abandoned his parents and they have nothing to look after. So all of that would be on part of the Diksharthi, and this is not appropriate at all. Incidentally, it might so happen that a person has made all of these arrangements and people might still talk ill, and people do. It's not very difficult to know this. You go to any the these days there's a lot of diksha videos. You go to any of these videos and you look up, you scroll down the comment section, you find a lot of people talking about, oh, what about their parents, what kind of religion is this, etc. Now for that, it's not appropriate, it's not possible for us to give answers to everyone in those comments. And this is not on the Diksharthi too, because he has uh, he has followed Bhagwan's Agna, and he has done everything in his capacity to look to ensure that there are provisions for his parents, right? So so the Sutrakar Bhagwan says that uh, Dhamma Pahana Janani Jammi, that this karuna towards the parents, this compassion towards the parents is the progenitor. It is the origin of dharma, because dharma comes from karuna. Dharma comes from compassion towards other beings. If we take it to a more macro level, let's look at Arihant Paramatma and their penultimate birth, or rather anti-penultimate birth. So in their anti-penultimate birth, as Sadhu Bhagwans who are practicing Sarag Sanyam, their desire is to uplift everyone from the sansar and ensure that they make that they attain moksha by way of practicing the shasan of Sarvagna Bhagwan. And this extreme karuna for every jeev, which translates into extreme maitri bhav for every jeev, it is this maitri bhav, when it reaches a peak, that it makes them tirthankars. So this maxim is very well stated here: Dhamma Pahana Janani Jammi Janammi, which is why he makes these arrangements, and then after his mother and father they give him permission, he accepts Charitra Dharma. Now, these are two possibilities that we saw so far. One is that uh, three actually. One is where he does not have to enlighten his parents; they are actually very well conversant with the nature of the sansar, so they also walk with him. The second is where they might know the nature of the sansar, or they might not, but they have a lot of attachment towards the sansar or towards their child, so they might not take diksha at all. Now, that is another case. The third is a case where uh, they are they know of the nature of the sansar, but they need to be enlightened. So the Shravak, the Diksharati, he tries his level best to make them understand the nature of the sansar, and then they become ready to walk the path with him. So three possibilities. Now there's the fourth case, and a more dreadful case in that manner, and that is when the mother and father are not ready to give diksha. They are not ready to, so they're not ready to take diksha themselves, but they're not even willing to give permission to the child to take diksha. What does a shravak do then? So in such a case, the Sutrakar Bhagwan says, Annaha anuvahi cheva uvahi jitesya dhamma rahanam khuhyam savva sattanam taha taheya sampadijja. So now, even after making the due financial arrangements, and with financial we can also by uplakshan understand all other social arrangements as well. If they do not give anugna, if they do not give permission to take diksha, a shravak should externally become mayavi. He should be deceitful externally while ensuring that there is no nature, there's not even a trace of deceit inside. And then the Tikakar Bhagwant even quotes the scripture by saying, Nirmaya eva bhavena, Maya wants to bhavet kachit, Pashyet sasvara yoryatya, sanubandha hitodayam. That is, the person who is free of Maya in terms of bhav, he may, in certain cases, for his own welfare and for the welfare of other people, externally, or he might put a display of Maya. He might put a show of Maya while ensuring that he's internally free from Maya. And then the Sutrakar Bhagwan says that in this manner, Aradhana of Dharma is for the welfare of all Jeeves. So he uses deceit in different ways to try convincing them for their permission. So this deceit could be in various forms. It could be in the form of saying, so the Sutrakar Bhagwan, the Tikakar Bhagwan himself gives a certain bunch of ideas or ways in which he could be deceitful. It could be in the form of narrating a bad dream. So he might say that, oh, I've seen a bad dream. Uh, Generally in India, there's a certain set of dreams which are associated with death. So when you see certain dreams, you know that death is imminent, death is nearing or knocking at your door. So he might, use those dreams such as I saw I saw a headless woman, or I saw certain bad things, or I heard a prophecy that I'm going to die in so and so time, which is why I want to take diksha and I want to make my death a good one. So he could use reasons like these to give an to basically convince his parents that, okay, I really can't stay here anymore because I might die anytime soon. I'm having weird signs. Or if you extend it to a more modern context, it could be it could be in the form of the doctor saying that uh, I'm only going to live for so and so time period now, and there's no other way for me, etc., etc. So by using all of these excuses, he might he'll try to get permission from them. It's important to understand here that the Maya that he's doing here is Prashasta Maya, and this is also in the form of Dharma itself. This is not undesirable, and in fact, this is for the welfare of both the Diksharthi and his parents. So, we saw 4 cases now. Now, there could be a 5th case that even after doing all of this, the parents might not give permission. In such a case, the Sutrakar Bhagavan is very clear. Savvaha अपरिवज्यमाणे चैज्यते अट्ठण गिलानो सहत्थ chaganayanam. Even by doing all of this, if the mother and father do not give permission, then the Diksharthi renounces his mother and father by the example of a person who is renouncing his parents to take Diksha. So there's an example given here. The Glan Aushad Drashtant. It is very well described in this sutra. So we'll look at the examples first and then understand the Upnay, or what the metaphor stands for. So the example is as follows, and the Sutrakar Bhagavan describes it. A person who is filled with rag towards their parents, but for some reason has gone to a forest with his parents, and there the parents contract a disease which is going to kill them in a very short span of time, and it is a terminal disease, so there's no cure for it at all. There's only one cure, and it is not available in the forest. So this person, this son of theirs, this child of theirs, is incapable of warding off the disease by himself. By way of practice, by way of taking a certain medicine, he may be able to cure the disease. So without this disease, it is definite that the mother and father cannot live longer. The medicine might help them save their life. They could live longer by way of the medicine. So by thinking all of this, by assessing the situation, this particular person, he will by thinking all of this, what he'll do is he'll make arrangements for their food, ensure that they have enough clothing to cover themselves in case it gets too cold or too hot. So he makes all of those due arrangements, and he leaves them there, and he needs to get that medicine. So for that, he ventures off into a different place. He gets the medicine for them, and he gives it to the mother and father after coming back. So here, the tyag that he has done, he left. If you see, he actually renounced his parents for a period of time, only to come back and give them this medicine. So the Sutrakar Bhagavan here says that because they are going to reunite again, this tyag is actually not tyag at all, but rather, if you don't leave them, if you don't leave them to go and get the medicine, and you continue staying with them, trying to be like, oh, nothing, it'll be all right, it'll be all right, and they're definitely going to die, that too. At such a case, if you don't leave, if you don't renounce them, then such lack of renunciation itself is like renunciation, because they are going to die and you're going to lose them forever. So, because death is going to cause the separation between the parents and the child. So, here, the wise people, those people who have developed a long vision, a far reaching vision, they look at the fruit of the activity. So they see that even by doing this tyag right now, I am virtually not doing tyag at all. And on the other hand, right now, if I don't do tyag, what I'm essentially doing is I'm renouncing my parents, because I am essentially surrendering them to the fate of death. So, uh, in such a scenario, it is it is appropriate and most decorous for that person to leave his parents for that particular time period and come back with the medicine. The example is very easy, and we can very easily understand the metaphor here as well. So the upnay of this example is like this: that a Shukla Pakshik Mahapurush, a Shukla Pakshik person, is a person whose duration in the sansar now is very little. He's going to go to moksha in a very short period of time. And to define Shukla Pakshik in a scriptural manner, uh, a jeev whose sansar kal is less than half of a Pudgal Paravartan kal is Shukla Pakshik. And those jeeves whose sansar is greater than or equal to half Pudgal Paravat kal, they're Krishna Pakshik. So Shukla Pakshik Mahapurush, he's in the forest of sansar with his mother and father, and this sansar is sure to destroy the mother and father, because this is the nature of sansar, to cause death, to cause rebirth, to cause death again, and so on. Uh, Bodhi Beej, Samyak Darshan, etc., is that cure to their disease, and the disease here is in the form of karma, which is complex in nature, which has several forms, which is in the form of death, etc. And there's only one cure to this, which as stated earlier, is in the form of Bodhi Beej, Samyak Gyan, and Samyak Charitra. Basically, the Ratnatraya. So a person who understands and who is inclined towards dharma, this Mahapurush thinks, uh, he assesses the situation, he thinks to himself that if I don't help them attain Samyak Darshan, Samyak Gyan, and Samyak Charitra right now, my mother and father are definitely going to be, they're definitely going to die. And if I were to give them this cure, maybe I'll be able to help them out. Maybe I'll be able to, help them cross over, get out of the forest of the sansar. So, right now, in the present, he makes arrangements to ensure that the mother and father have enough to live by themselves. They have food, clothing, money, etc. with them. And he looks for a particular guru who has all the requisite qualities. He hears the Deshna of Dharma from that particular Guru Bhagwant. And after meeting them, he takes Diksha himself, so that uh, he can give the Ratnatrayi, the cure of Ratnatrayi, to his mother and father, and help them attain moksha, help them attain siddhi. So this is the upnay of uh, of this particular example. So by this logic, even if a particular person were to leave their mother and father, the tyag that they are doing is not actual tyag. It is just leaving them for a short period only to come back. The Sutrakar Bhagavan further explains this in the following sutras. Upna is basically, uh, I'm unable to think of an English an English counterpart for this word, but so if I'm using a particular simile or a metaphor, the metaphor is going to be something that is figurative, but the literal interpretation from that is what the upnay will be. So in this particular example, we're talking of a forest. The upnay of that forest is the sansar. So I don't know what word you'd use for it. If anyone can think of a particular word for this, please let me know. I can't think of a word right now. So the Sutrakar Bhagavan further says that by doing this particular activity, by ensuring that the mother and father eventually, if not now, attain Samyak Darshan, Samyak Gyan, and Samyak Charitra, and for that, even if they leave their mother and father in the present, then that is the dharma, the duty of Sat Purush. And in this context, very interestingly, the Sutrakar Bhagavan gives the example of the exact opposite thing. It looks like the exact opposite thing, but obviously it's very relevant here. He gives the example. He says that, and here let's look at the words of the Tikakar Bhagavan himself because it's very well put here. दुष्प्रतिकारो माता पितरौ इति कृत्वा एष धर्म सताम सत्पुरुषाणाम. The upkar of Mata Pita is dushpratikar. It is difficult. It is with great difficulty that you can repay them, which is why this is the dharma of Satpurush. Bhagavan atra gyatam Mahavira eva pariharan garbhabhigraha pratipatya kushlanubandhanam tatha karma parinatya mata pitru shokam pravrajya grahanodbhavamiti. So here he says that Gnyat Putra Shraman Bhagwan Shri Mahavir Swami Bhagwan, he himself is the example of acting appropriately in such a circumstance, and he is the example of how he warded off the Papanubandhi Shok of his mother and father by taking the Abhigraha. So, uh, the scriptures quoted here, Avashyak Bhashya, Gatha 59, wherein Bhagwan says that, wherein Bhagwan takes the Abhigraha, he sees with his Avjignan that my mother and father are in such a state that if I were to take Diksha in their presence, it would lead them to, mourning so much, and this shok would be so Papanubandhi that they would die from it. And in order to, prevent them from dying, in order to prolong their life, he takes an Abhigraha in the womb that I will only take Diksha once my parents are dead. This Abhigraha, Bhagwan had to take an Abhigraha in this manner because the complexity of Tirthankar Paramatma's karma is known by them. In our case, we don't know what the complexity of karma is, so we rely on the Guru Bhagwan's vachan. If the Guru Bhagwan sees us fit to take Diksha, even in the absence of the mother and father not consenting to it, it is our duty to take Diksha if we can, and if we are willing to, obviously. So it's for a definite reason that Bhagwan took this Abhigraha, but the understanding here, the learning here is that Bhagwan also acted in this way out of devotion for his mother and father. So even in the last birth, the Uchit Acharan, the appropriate and decorous behavior that a Tirthankar practices, is so beautiful that a Tirthankar Bhagwan who is free from all vyavahar, if you see externally or internally, they engage in Uchit Acharan just to ensure that their behavior is not perceived as bad or wrong by any particular faction of the society. So any Tirthankar Bhagwan you look at, you see their life even before taking Diksha, their behavior with everyone is mind blowing. It is exemplary and something we all must learn from. The same Mahavir Bhagwan, when although he's blessed with Mati Shrut and Avjagnan, and his parents also know it to a decent degree because the parents of Mahavir Bhagwan are followers of are great Shravaks of Parshvanath Bhagwan, and these parents, they know that they have the mother has conceived a Tirthankar Bhagwan and a Tirthankar has been born, and this Tirthankar is always endowed with Mati Shrut and Avjagyan. There's nothing stopping them from knowing this, and they've been told this as well several times. So having known thus, they obviously know that Paramatma's womb and Paramatma later on, even after being born, is in possession of Mati, Shrut, and Avjignan. And yet, they sent Bhagwan to school, and Bhagwan did not utter a word of protest. He willingly went there. He performed a different feat there altogether. That's a different thing. But the fact that Bhagwan readily agreed to go to school just at the insistence of his parents, this is something that teaches us a lot. All right. So, having said that, uh, the last part of this sutra is the vidhi that is the diksha vidhi that is briefly laid down. Evama parovatavam savvaha suguru samive puitta bhagavante viyarage sahuva तोसियुण विहवोचियम किवणाई सुप्प उत्तावस्ये सुविशुद्ध निमित्ते समहि वासिये विसुज्यमानो महयाणमोयणम सम्मम पवइज्जा लोह धम्मे हिंतो लोगुत्तर धम्म गमनेण ऐसा जिनाणमाणा महाकल्याणति न विराहीयव्वा बुहेणम महानथ भयाओ सिद्धि कंखिणा. And with this, the third sutra ends. The Sutrakar Bhagwant, in this last part of the sutra, he concludes, because the name of the sutra is Pravraja Grahan Vidhi. What is the vidhi to take Diksha? After discussing all of this, he says that in this manner, without causing any suffering to the mother and father, he takes Diksha in a nice and appropriate way. Before taking Diksha, he does puja of Vitrag Paramatma and Guru Bhagwants in accordance with his wealth, his social stratum. He does Anukampa Dan. He gives, he tries to ward off the suffering of different jeeves around him by, giving Dan, etc. And he makes them satisfied too. He does the Avashyak Kriyas of Samaik, etc. And then, after putting on appropriate clothes, one interesting word that is mentioned here is Suvisuddha Nimitte. So he sees good shukans. That is, he ensures that while he's leaving to take Diksha, there are good omens coming his way. So such as if a person if a person is a person who's well dressed is walking in his way, that is a good shukan. It sometimes even a person who is taking a pile of trash away, garbage cleaner, that is also a good shukan in certain circumstances. In certain circumstances, prostitutes are also a good shukan. So Shukan Shastra is vast. Only those who know it know it. There are obviously ordinary shukans as well. Sugarcane, for instance, dahi. All of these are very popular in Indian culture. So by seeing all of these good shukans, he gets Vasak shape from the Guru Bhagwant and with the Guru Mantra. And with that, with his excitement is also gradually incrementing. In earlier circumstances, we saw Vishuddhaman was the adjective used. His Shuddhi was increasing every day. In this case, with his Vishuddhi, his excitement is also increasing because this excitement is lokottar in nature. It is not lokik. This is a very great distinction that we need to understand. Lokik excitement or excitement for materialistic padarths or padarths that are confined only to this realm is different. But the excitement to get rid of this lok, to practice the lokottar dharma, that is the jin dharma, is of a different category altogether. With that, he becomes purer and purer. By doing bhav vandan to Guru Bhagwan, etc., he becomes even purer. And then, with under a good guru, under a guru who meets the requisite qualities of a Guru Bhagwan who has the 36 qualities as stated in the Panchandya Sutra, as stated in different other scriptures, he takes Diksha under that particular Guru Bhagwan. He does not take Diksha under a Ku Guru. This is very clearly specified in the Tika as well. Now, when we say he's taken Diksha, call it Diksha, call it Pravrajya, both are synonyms. So Shreyansh is asking what the Guru Mantra is here. The Guru Mantra here could be in the form of anything. So the Guru Mantra here, see, the word here is, let me look for the exact word in the Tika and I'll tell you. Okay, so it says Guruna Mantrena Vishuddhamano Pratiyogam Samabhivasito Guruna Mantrena. So the Guru Bhagwan does Vasakship with the Guru Mantra, so you can understand it to be the Surya Mantra here. or the Vidya of the mantra of Vardhan Vidya, as the case may be. Because here, this person, he becomes more and more excited with the Vasik shape of the Guru, which is imbibed with the Guru mantra. So you can understand with in an appropriate situation. If it's the Acharya Bhagavan, it could be in the form of Surya mantra, etc. It could be in the form of Vardhan Vidya if it is in case of Muni Bhagavans who, who are not Acharya Bhagavans, depending on the case, obviously. Now, when we say he's accepting Pravrajya, what is he doing exactly? So, Pravrajya, the word is broken down here, and the Tikakar Bhagwan specifies this. He says, Prakarshena Vajredityartha. Prakarsh, that is, uh, he reaches a peak. What do you mean by reaching a peak here? So he says that. So the Tikakar Bhagwan says that from the grounds, from the foothills of practicing Lok Dharma, he is reaching the peak of Lokottar Dharma. It's a very beautiful metaphor, a beautiful definition of the word Pravrajya. Pra stands for Prakrush, that is Prakarsh, that is the height or the maximum or the zenith of a particular thing. So when we talk of Pravrajya, this person who is accepting Pravrajya, he is essentially reaching the peak of Lokottar Dharma. Taking Pravrajya in this manner is Jin Agna. This Jin Agna, again, the importance of Agna is highlighted here, and in such beautiful words. Esha Jinanam Agya Yadutaivam Pravrajitavyayam. Iyam cha Mahakalyaneti Krutva na Viradhitavya Budhena Nanyatha Kartavyetyartha Kartavyetartha. This Janagna is Mahakalyankari. This Janagna is such that it will ensure welfare of the Atma on a definite basis. And because of that, those Pandits, those Mokshu Atmas who are wise, who are Pandit because they are the true scholars, they know the nature of the Sansar and they know the nature of Dharma in the Sansar. These Moksharthi Pandits, out of fear for the great havoc that would be wreaked among them if they were to violate Jinagna, they ensure that they do not do Viradhana of Jinagna in any manner and they do not act contrary to Jinagna in any of these steps which are mentioned up until now. Because, and the Tikakar Bhavan says that there is no greater anarth than the violation of Jinagna. By the Aradhana of Jinagna gives the fruit of moksha, and there is no other moksha marg. And towards the end, this is so beautifully mentioned here. There is no other moksha marg apart from Aradhana of Janagna. So any particular person having any question of what the moksha marg is, the answer is very simple. Follow Janagna. That is the moksha marg. And the Tikakar Bhagwant further specifies that with this, the Pravajya Grahanvadi Sutra ends. And with this, the description of how a person should take Pravrajya and how he should follow it is also it also comes to a conclusion. So, with this we've completed the third sutra. It is the shortest sutra of all the 5 sutras. The fourth sutra and the fifth sutra are extremely difficult and technical in nature. In terms of understanding the various concepts that they have. So we'll look at them a little slowly. There's a lot of scope for discussion in these scriptures, in these 2 sutras as well, because the 4th sutra is the Pravrajya Paripalana Sutra, which describes from the day of taking Diksha towards the end of this Atma's journey, that is till he reaches moksha, what should his conduct be? That is delineated in the 4th scripture, in the 4th sutra. And the 5th sutra describes the fruit of Pravrajya, as we saw earlier, that is moksha. So what is moksha? What is not moksha? Different religions have different theories about moksha. We're talking of Indian religions here because apart from Indic religions, there's no valid theory of, or there's no theory of moksha that they have. They have different concepts of an afterlife, of heaven, of Jannat, but there's no concept of moksha in all of these religions. So understanding what different faiths talk about moksha and assessing why moksha is what Jain Dharma says moksha is by way of negating the others, by way of rebutting the others with logic. That is contained in the fifth sutra. The fourth sutra talks of how the sadhak practices grahan shiksha and asevan shiksha under the Guru Bhagwan. This sutra also has some most beautiful uh, descriptions of what the of the upkar of a Guru Bhagwan, why Guru Bhagwan is a central figure in a person's journey from Nibodh to Moksha. So all of this is mentioned in the fourth sutra. Before we begin looking at the fourth sutra, are there any questions pertaining to the third sutra or any of the three sutras so far?
Actually, I have one question. You had mentioned
Sure.
that a Shravak or a person who is not having Parinam of taking Diksha can also be called Shravak. And but I was not able to get what's the reason behind it.
So the reason behind this is simple. Parinam and Manorath are two different terms. Manorath is a simple desire or a simple wish to take Diksha. Parinam is in the form of, you know, a thought process. Oh, when will I take Diksha? And, with a sense of extreme and grave urgency, when will that moment come, And as soon as he gets the opportunity to take Diksha, say he gets the yoga for Guru Bhagwan, he will pounce at that opportunity and he will take Diksha. So that is the difference between Manorath and Parinam. A Shravak might not necessarily always have the Parinam to take Diksha. Does that help, Shreyas bhai?
Yeah, I got.
Alright, okay. Are there any other questions?
Pashbhai, in the fourth case, when his parents do not agree for the Shravak to take
Hmm.
Diksha, so when the Shravak uses deceit, so after, like, let's say he used deceit and took Diksha, but after that, let's say he did not die, the case we took for the bad omen. So when the Shravak did not die, then his parents will ultimately think that maybe he was lying to us or he fooled
Yeah,
us.
yeah, of course, they will know that. I mean, in most cases, they would know that.
So, like they will think ill of him, and others might also think ill of him.
No, so that's exactly what's explained by way of the example there. I believe I did not expand on the illustration as much. My bad for that. So when we talk of now in the example, when the person is going out of the forest or he's venturing somewhere in the forest to get the cure and he comes back with the cure, the upnai of that would be that after this person takes diksha himself, he will, by way of following what is stated in the fourth sutra, that is, by way of Grahan Shiksha and Asivan Shiksha, his Samyak Gyan will increase, his Charitra will become purer and purer, and with an increase in Samyak Gyan, your Samyak Darshan also, as a matter of fact, becomes more refined. So, with that, this person will come back and he will, give Updesh of Dharma to his parents, and that will basically, so even if they've been thinking ill of him previously, thinking that, oh, we got deceived by our child, it's for their benefit because ultimately they're still going to benefit from dharma in most cases. In there could be a very tiny possibility that the parents might not agree they might not live long enough after this person takes diksha, and he might not have the chance to enlighten them about dharma. But this is so such possibilities are often few in number, and even when they arise, ultimately it is the spiritual welfare of one's own atma that you have to prioritize there in that case, because uh, there's when you'll meet them again, no one knows, but the atma is bound to suffer in the sansar if he does not rectify um, his flaws there. But in any event, in the example, when we're talking of them coming, the Mahatma coming back as a sadhu bhagwan to the parents, uh, it is often a very short process. It doesn't take very long, because in most cases, even when a person is unwilling to take diksha, and the parents are when the parents are unwilling to give diksha to the child, it often so happens that the moment the child rebels and they ultimately, after exhausting all the means stated in cases 1, 2, 3, 4, of getting permission, they exhaust all the means, and even by doing maya, they do not get an opportunity to take diksha, um, and they run away and they take diksha, or they take it without parental consent. As soon as the parents get to know, they'll move heaven and earth perhaps to get the child back. And there have been a few cases where sadhu bhagwans were even brought back in the past. Uh, so we're talking about a century and a half ago, a century ago, in fact. Diksha Dharma was very rare in Jain households because of the environment that was being peddled around by a lot of people. Uh, so in such circumstances, it was very difficult for uh, children to take Diksha because forget minors, even majors, that is, even adults were not allowed to take Diksha. There was a time when, if it's a very popular description of the times back then, when a child would take Diksha, people would talk about how the child knows nothing about the sansar, and so how is he fit to take Diksha? If it were a youth that's taking Diksha, they would say, oh, instead of experiencing the world right now, experiencing the beauty of the world, he's taking Diksha. If he's an adult that would be taking Diksha, they would say, oh, he's an adult, doesn't he have responsibilities towards his children and towards his parents? How can he take Diksha? And if an elderly person were to take Diksha, they'd be like, what is his use there? He's not going to learn anything. He's just going to lift, pots from one place to another. What is this point of taking Diksha now? So people would attack Diksha Dharma in such a way. But uh, thankfully, due to a revolution brought about by several, not by several rather, back then there were only a handful of Jain Sadhu Bhagwans, notably Sagarji Maharaj, Ram Vijayji Maharaja back then, Ramchandra Sariji Mahasab later, Labdi Sareshwarji Maharaja, Dan Sareshwarji Maharaja. By all of these Acharya Bhagwans, uh, the number of Sadhu Bhagwans that were back then only a handful in number. You could probably have them, you could count them in two or three scores, perhaps not more than that for sure. That number is expanded so to such a huge number today. Today we see there's tens of thousands of Jain Mahatmas in this subcontinent. That is all thanks due to these thanks to all of these Acharya Bhagwans. So they made them everyone understand, and the parents of the children too, that if the child were to run away and take Diksha, the parents. So Sagarji Maharaj, for instance, he was brought back by his family once, and then he rebelled and he took Diksha again. This might be Babji Maharaj, Siddhi Shri Vasab. I'm not sure. I'm confusing one of the two. Naman can correct me if I'm wrong. It definitely is Babji Maharaj. I don't know if the same was for Sagarji Maharaj as well. Uh, so, in such circumstances, uh, when the person takes Diksha again, or in the event that the family fails to get the Diksharthi back into the Sansar, what happens is, as a last resort, you have to communicate with the person who's taken Diksha and with their Guru. And as part of that communication, in most cases, there are a few exceptions to this, too, obviously, the family becomes very agreeable, if not immediately, then over time, to the idea that their child or their family member has taken Diksha, and then they sort of start developing an inclination towards that, because uh, if even in the event that they don't, this doesn't happen immediately. Okay, it's Sagarji Maharaj and Babji Maharaj too in that case. So in in such a scenario, the parents on every Diksha Tithi of the Mahatma, or if there's some event or the other, they'll have to keep on going, and out of mere social conduct as well, they'll probably keep on visiting the person who's taken Diksha. So even with that, over time they get more and more acquainted with Dharma, and they start practicing better and better, and then they develop an actual understanding of Dharma and they practice it even better. So yeah,
Yeah, okay. So by their effect, ultimately, they'll also get Samyak Darshan.
correct, correct.
Yeah, okay,
So
thank you.
this happens in most scenarios. Uh, I've seen scenarios of different types. I'd say. So yeah,
Yeah, thanks.
is there anything else? Okay, in that case, we begin with the fourth Pravrajya Paripalana Sutra. Just give me 2 minutes. I'm going to get some water and come back. Apologies for the delay. Okay, so the fourth sutra, Shri Pravrajya Paripalana Sutra. The connection between the third and fourth sutra is established by the Tikakar Bhagavad. That is the vidhi of taking diksha, right from convincing or not convincing, leaving in absence of the parents being convinced, and taking diksha, to the actual process of taking diksha, which was summed up in a very short sutra, was mentioned in the third sutra. Now, having taken this diksha, what is the charya, what is the conduct that the sadhu bhava should follow? This is the introductory part of the fourth sutra. So, एवमभिपव्ये समाणे स्विः भावो क्रियाफलेन जुज्जये विशुद्धचरणे महसत्ये न विवज्जय मयि एय अभावे भिप्पे असिद्धि उवाय पवित्यो नाविवज्जद्धनो वज्जत्थो नोवाय पयट्टये उवाओ अ उभयसहगो नियमेण तस्य ततच्चाओ अन्नः ऐपसंगाओ निश्चयमयमेयम्. Now, in this manner, a mukshu atma who has become pravrajit by following the due vidhi laid down in the scripture, by way of practicing the vidhi of sadhupana that is showed down in the scripture, he gets the fruit of this kriya. Because without this mukshu, by way of his extremely pure charitra and by way of his great courage, his mahasattva, he does not attain mithya gyan, because those who attain mithya gyan and their paranam goes to a different space, to an opposite place altogether, they end up going off track. So the Suttakar Bhagan further specifies by saying that a person who acts in the solution that is shown in the scriptures will be able to attain the isht, that is the desired fruit, and that is the fruit of moksha. So here it's mentioned that generally speaking, if a person is acting in accordance with the vidhi laid down in the scriptures, they will be able to attain their ishtafal generally. So this word generally was mentioned, samanya naiva, that is generally speaking, because it might so happen that by way of their previous karma, as in the case of Nandish and Muni, etc., they might not be able to attain their desired position. So Nandish and Muni now, I hope everyone knows the story. If not, we'll just briefly skim through it. Nandish Muni was a son of Shri Maharaja, the king of Magad, and Nandishen, this prince Nandishen, he heard Bhagwan's Updesh and he wished to take Diksha. Having taken Diksha, Bhagwan saw that he was, that at a later point he would have a surge in his Charadramoniya karma. So Bhagwan advised him to take Diksha later, but seeing he was insisting, and Bhagwan also saw that what is going to happen is definitely going to happen. So he gave him Diksha, and he followed Diksha with utmost care and caution. His Panchachar, his 5 Samatis, 3 Guptis, all of them were perfect. Up until this one particular point wherein, while he was seeking Gochri, he accidentally went to a prostitute's place. And when he went there, he was extremely dazzled uh, by her charm, by her beauty, by her graces and manners. And he was charmed. And uh, the prostitute could also read his face. And that's when he sensed that he's falling from his charitra, but his karma was so strong that there was nothing that he could do about it. And he asked the prostitute, if for her company basically, and she said that we only that we don't serve someone just like that. Give us money and will be yours. So at that particular point in time, Nandishan Muni, by way of he was such a tapasvi, such a labdhidhari Mahatma, that by way of by way of tapping his dando, he made a shower of gold coins happen right there, and she was pretty impressed too. And that's when Nishan Muni he forsake his sadhutva, he abandoned it, and he started residing with her. Now, this is enough to understand the present context. But while we're talking of Nishan Muni, it would be unfair to talk about, I mean, to only cover one side of him and not the other. And the other is that, in spite of all of this, his Samyak Darshan was still alive, present, and beating. So while he was doing all of this, he was doing it with immense regret, and he knew that whatever he was doing was absolutely wrong, and he was trying his level best to um, abstain, abstain from it. But his Charatramunya karma was so powerful that he had to submit to it. Samyak Darshan, on the other hand, is governed by Darshan Monya karma. So both of them, they're separate branches of Monya karma. Although they are related to a certain degree, they're also independent of each other to a very good degree. So a person who is lacking in Charitra might not always be lacking in Samyak Darshan. But a person who's lacking in Samyak Darshan, even though they are practicing Charitra to the fullest, they're practicing the greatest austerities of Charitra, they are worthless in the eyes of the Jnani Bhagwans. So it's very important to understand this, because and we take our minds back to our Swadhyay sessions from I think of 2021, wherein we were discussing Shodashak Prakaran, and in Shodashak Prakaran of Haribhadra Saraswati Maharaja, in the very first or second Shodashak, we saw how the categories of jeevas are bifurcated into three, and we saw how we saw the maxim Balaha Pashyati Lingam. Bal jeevs are the first category who are very naive, whose understanding is not matured enough. They see the ling, that is, they see the outward appearance, they see the achar. So there'll be all praises for Mahatmas, who do a lot of tapasya, whose clothes are dirty, who do a lot of vihar, who practice, a lot of extreme austerities in a general sense. So they get charmed by that, they get attracted by that. Now, this is the nature of Baljeev, which is why even to attract Baljeev, uh, certain times Shasakar Bhagwans talk of, they direct that you should give Updesh pertaining to Achar to attract Baljeev, because they're not going to understand a lot about, different. If you start talking about Anekant Thought to a Baljeev, they're probably just going to get perplexed and be like, what is this? And leave. So it might be necessary to talk about the great difficult achars of sadhutva in front of Baljeev, but that's a different thing. Point is, a lot of Baljeev, even today, upon seeing these great austerities, they fall flat and be like, oh, this is the person, this is the sadhu of Bhagwan, but they don't pay attention to their prarupna, their, their parinati, or their affiliation and inclination towards Bhagwan's shasan and the scriptures of the shasan. So all of this, the latter part is associated with Samyak Darshan, because when Samyak Darshan is present, Prarupna will be pure, and when Samyak Darshan is not, it won't be, obviously. This is why in the Agams, in addition to there are two main parts on the Moksha Marg. One is Sadhu Dharma, and the second is Shravak Dharma. It might so happen that a person who has taken Sadhu Dharma by way of such Vichitra Karmoday has fallen from Sadhu Dharma. That is, he is not completely fallen, but he's developed a lot of Shithilta in his Sadhu Dharma, which is why he can, he falls below the requisite conduct of a sadhu, but his Samyak Darshan is still alive, and he is unable to go back to the society due to several factors. Even such a person who is known in the scriptures as Samvigna Pakshik, he is also in the Marg. He is also on the Moksha Marg, and in the absence of appropriate Guru Bhagwans, there's a gradual order of preference laid down in the scriptures. If in this order of preference you are unable to meet a requisite Suguru Bhagwan, when you want to take Alochna, even Samvigna Pakshiks can be resorted to for taking Alochna. In fact, in the absence of Suvihit Guru Bhagwans, you can even go to Samvigna Pakshik people to listen to Janvani. But you cannot go to Kuguru Bhagwans. That is, even if they have the greatest achar, but they are Utsutra Prarupaks, then going to them is not permissible. Because Samvigna Pakshik ultimately is still on the marg. If someone were to do Vandan to him, he would say, no, no, don't do Vandan to me. Do Vandan to these Mahatmas because they are Samvigi. And I am, I am devoid of any conduct at all. So please don't do any Vandan to me. He won't make any shishas of his own, etc. All of these uh, are well laid out in the scriptures. But to understand them in basic Gujarati, they're also laid down in Upadhyay Shuji Maseb's Savasu Gathanu Stavan. If I'm missing out on a few characteristics, let me just get my book back. Give me a second. Right. So, Samvigna Pakshiks are talked about in the seventh dhal of the Savasa Gathanu Stavan, wherein Upadhyay Bhagwan describes them in a very simple way that a person who can't leave the Muni Vesh, who are heen, who are lacking in the qualities of Charan and Karan Anuyog, even these Mahatmas are shown to be in the marg because their pakshapat is towards sadhu bhavans. Muni guna pakshe lina ji. Mrushavad bhava karana jani. Maraga shuddha prarupe ji. Vande navi vandave muni ne. Apat hai nija rupe ji. These Mahatmas, they understand the words of the scriptures when the scriptures say that Mrushavad, or speaking against the scriptures, speaking falsely, is the cause of sansar, and because of that, they only do prarupna of the Shuddh Marg. They don't let munis do vandan to them, but they do vandan to other samvigi guru bhavans. That is, they come out as their true self. They don't, they don't deceitfully hide their true self. And here, in the next verse, it's further described. Muniguna rage pura shura, jeje jayana pale ji, te tehati शुभ भाव लहीने कर्म अपना टाले जी आपहीनता जे मुनि भाषे मान साकड़े लोके जी ए दुर्धर व्रत एहनु दाख्यु जेनवी फूले फोके जी. So here Upajaji Bhagan says that these Mahatmas are filled with Gunanurag towards Muni Bhagwans, and it's not like they've completely abandoned all acharas of a sadhu. So they, as much as possible, they try to practice Jaina in their day-to-day life as well. And because of practicing Jaina, and we all know that karma bandh happens not due to the Swarup Hinsa, but due to due to the amount of Jaina that is observed. So because of that, they also shed their karmas, and they, before everyone else, before the general public, they talk of how low they are, how inferior they are compared to true munis, and by that they also reduce their man kashai to a very good level. And we all know that man kashai is a very difficult kashai to tame. So for that alone, the scriptures say that the scriptures say e durdharavrata ehanu dakyu. So this conduct of theirs is also very great and difficult to imitate. Apart from that, uh, the Upajaji Bhavan also says that Prathama Sadhu Bijo Vara Shravaka Trijo Samvegi Paki ji E Trane Shiva Maraga Kahiye Jihache Pravachana Saki ji. The scriptures bear testimony to the fact that the first path, the best path to attain moksha is that of a sadhu. The second is that of being a great shravak, and the third of being samvigna pakshik. But apart from that, a person who is an ordinary, who is a kuguru or an ordinary gruhast, or a person falsely posing as a samvigna pakshik, all of them are filled with vices, and you should stay away from them. So that is for the present day purposes. Naman was asking about an example of Samvigna Pakshik. So I don't of a particular example of Samvigna Pakshik as such. Now, in certain grunts like Ashtak Prakaran, Yes, in certain it's like Ashtak Prakran, and I remember seeing it in a few other places as well. I don't remember where right now. I shall check and let you know. Jineshwar Seshwaji Maharaja who has composed the Tika on Ashtak Prakran, has described Haribhadra Seshwari Maharaj Sahib as Samigna Pakshik. If I remember correctly, Haribhadra Seshwari Maharaj Sahib himself has also described, he's described himself as Samigna Pakshik. For what reason, I'm not very sure. Uh, but it's difficult to. So, the context in which they have said Samigna Pakshik seems to be very different, because if that is the level of, I mean, imagine this. We know of Haribhadra Seshwari Maharaj Sahib, we know of his scriptures, and if a person of his stature is described as Samigna Pakshik, then what we're seeing today, uh, it doesn't add up, So we really have to see that. Yes, it could also be his modesty. That is what I've also heard from Gacharipati Shriji. So I remember asking him once. So I, in fact, I was very, and this is my, my poor manners. This one time I went up to him and, I told him that you talk of Haribhadra Seshwari myself calling himself Samvigna Pakshik. What kind of conduct do you have in yourself? Why are you calling yourself Samvegi? Why don't you call yourself Samvigna Pakshik too? So uh, he he in fact frankly admitted, he said that today the conduct that we have is far worse, far inferior to that of a Samvigna Pakshik as well. However, uh, and he narrated to me an incident from the times of Atmaramji Maharaj, wherein Buteraji Maharaj, Atmaramji Maharaj's guru, was telling him that, Atmaram, we're not truly Samvegi, we're Samigna Pakshik. Because look at our Achar. And if you look at the Achar, it's so strict. So you wonder what's even going wrong. And that's when Atmaramji Maharaj said that, he's like, Guru Bhagan, do not say this, because if you were to say something like that, people, the Shravaks, would get confused and they would lose track. So this was narrated to me by Guru Bhagan. So similarly, it can be understood in this context. It could mostly be their modesty, and on one hand, and we can on the other hand also imagine what is the level of Jaina, what is the level of care and caution and strictness that is expected out of Shraman Bhagavans today, uh, by Paramatma. So it's so important to understand this. So wow, it's truly surprising the level of modesty that these Purvacharya Bhagavans had. But yeah, so I don't know if an example which I can definitely call something to Pakshik. I don't know in what context Haribhadra Seshwari have said it. I don't think it's appropriate to cite him as an example of a something to Pakshik because, uh, yeah, for the obvious reasons. I mean, look, his compositions are such that I don't know if you guys know this, but every composition of Haribhadra Seshwari Maharaj Sahib ends with the pad viraha. So that's the characteristic to find out whether or not a particular granth has been composed by him. And in most granths, it ends in a compounded form as bhav viraha, virakti from sansar, detachment from sansar. Now, a person whose life was so interwoven with detachment towards the sansar, who left his extremist Brahmanical attitude of hating Jain Dharma to becoming a devout and a regretful follower of this Shasan, it's difficult to imagine him to be Samvigna Pakshik in the sense that we're looking at it right now. So, yes, Yash is asking if Samvigna Pakshik is someone who can't take Diksha. No, that's not true at all. Samvigna Pakshik is someone who's uh, taken Diksha and then he can't follow the conduct of of sadhutva. Because if there's someone who can't take Diksha, he's simply a Shravak, provided he has Samyak Darshan. That's exactly what is said in here as well. Uh, J Muni Vesha Shakina Vishandi, Charana Karana Guna Hinaji. That he who can't leave the Muni Vesh. So obviously the prerequisite for that is you have to have taken Diksha before. So right, that. Now we go back to our story of Nandishan Muni, who he's left everything, even the Munivesh, because obviously he wouldn't engage in whatever he was engaging in with the clothes on of the sadhu of Sadhu Bhagwan. And having realized that his karma is very complex, he decided to, end his life because, and the scriptures often say, we hear in scriptures like Updesh Mala, that it is better to burn in fire or to die than to violate a niyam that you have taken before. And for this reason, the scriptures, um, the agams particularly, they show various ways in which a sadhu can, uh, basically reduce his longevity. Like he cut his life short if there is a circumstance that he might not be able to practice his niyams anymore. So in such cases, they might even do anshan to bring death in on early. So he tries jumping off a cliff, uh, but the moment he does that, a Shasan Devata comes and protects him, and he saves him from falling. So this happens when you have punya. When you have punya, you can't even end your life peacefully, because that your ayush is meant to end at a particular point in time, and no upakram can also save it from being cut short. So all of this can happen. Even suicide attempts can fail, with the complexities of karma. So he tries various ways of killing himself, but he's saved by virtue of his punya. When you have punya, even devatas want to serve you, and he continues living the way he's living. But because the Samya Darshan is present, and as a means to do aradhana of Charitra Dharma, and this also showcases his bhakti towards the pravachan, towards the Jain Shasan, he takes a niyam that I will only consume food once I send 10 people to Shravan Bhagwan Sri Magar Sami Maharaja every day. And he fulfills that niyam. For 12 years, and these are not ordinary people, these are clients who would be visiting the prostitute. So you think of their mindset, you think of the intentions with which they've come with a, with overflowing grog. Only then would they probably resort to a prostitute. And so 10 of these people every day, people who you wouldn't really associate yourself with, even people like these, he would enlighten them, he would instruct them in the dharma, and he would help them attain samaya darshan and send them to Bhagwan to take diksha. This went on for 12 years, and by doing this, and gradually also by way of uh, engaging in the bhog that he was engaging in, with all of this, his Charadramanya karmas also gradually came, to an end. They were nearly coming to an end. So this one day, Nandishan Muni, he was able to enlighten 9 people, and the 10th person was missing. So his this prostitute said to him, why don't you go yourself now? And she said it jokingly, but he actually took that up seriously, because his paranam were once again reinvigorated with the near end of his Charadramanya karma, which was stopping him, and he set out to take diksha again. He practiced it beautifully, and he went to a good gati after. This is the entire story, in sum. But for our present example, we're looking at the first part, that is, okay, we're coming back to the Panchasutra now, wherein we're looking at the fourth sutra, and the Sutrakar Bhagavan is saying that by following the Vidhi laid down in scriptures, ordinarily people attain the fruit of this Vidhi. The word ordinarily was used to exclude exceptions like these. So, yeah, we draw ourselves back to that. And, okay, having said that, the Sudhakar Bhagan further says that Grahan Shiksha, etc., is the cause of moksha, but only when you do it with the right vidhi. That is, if you take shiksha from your Guru Bhagwan, Grahan Shiksha and Asevan Shiksha, these are two types. Grahan Shiksha is in the form of understanding. It's basically, if you want to boil it down to very crude terms, Grahan Shiksha is theoretical knowledge, Asevan Shiksha is practical knowledge. Grahan Shiksha is that which you learn from your Guru Bhagwan in terms of different scriptures, etc. Asevan Shiksha is the different is a practical training that you get from the Guru Bhagwan. So here, this Sutrakar Bhagwan says that according to Nishchay, uh, Grahan Shiksha, etc., when done in accordance with the Vidhi, is the cause of moksha. But, so understand here. So, Grahan Shiksha, etc., By etc., you can include asevan shiksha, other forms of other incidental or synonymous forms of education, etc., or conduct of sadhutva. You take them all. Nishtayana says that only when you do it in accordance with the vidhi laid down in the scriptures will you attain moksha. Only that grahan shiksha, etc., which is done strictly in accordance with the vidhi, causes moksha. Vyavahar says no. Vyavahar suggests that a jeev who is inclined towards practicing the vidhi laid down in the scriptures, who is desirous of, so he sees that this is the ideal conduct that there should be, and he's inclined towards that. His eyes are set on that particular, set of quality of practice only. So this particular kind of jeev, in the beginning, even if he practices a vidhi, even then this grahan shiksha, etc., even such grahan shiksha and asevan shiksha is the cause of moksha. Nishchana says no, that's not possible, because if you're arguing that grahan shiksha, asevan shiksha, etc., or basically any conduct of sadhutva which is practiced by a vidhi is the cause of moksha, then you would have to mean that then that would mean that rag and dvesh are also the cause of moksha, because any avidhi that happens by way of rag and dvesh, or it is generated by rag and dvesh. So ultimately things will boil down, and what you'll have is rag and dvesh, because when rag and dvesh are present, avidhi or atichars are present. So uh, that would defy common logic, because moksha is the destruction of rag and dvesh altogether. Vitragta is the destruction of rag and dvesh altogether. So how do you attain that by practicing rag and dvesh in the first place? And so for that, so here the Sutrakar further says, the Tikakar Bhagwan also adds to this. He says that this would mean that you either attain moksha or you don't attain moksha. It's the same thing, because you're still engaging in rag and dvesh at the end of the day. So the Tikakar Bhagwan specifies by saying this, that look, if you don't believe uh, if you don't believe in Grahan Shiksha and Asevan Shiksha, which contains traces of avidhi to be the cause of moksha, then you would have to get away with get rid of the concept of moksha altogether, because every jeev, when they start out, provided they have their eyes set on doing it vidhi purvak, when they set out to practice the conduct of this moksha marg, they are bound to make mistakes. They are bound to practice avidhi in their lives. So you can't go on an absolute term and say, oh, this is totally not permissible. So from this discussion between Vyavahar and Nishchaya, we need to extract what is the truth here, which is a balance of both, not inclining ourselves towards either sides, understanding where both are coming from. Yes, it's true that Grahan Shiksha and Asevan Shiksha, only when done in accordance with the Vidhi laid down in the scriptures, are the cause of moksha. But at the same time, it's also important to understand that such Vidhi, uh, such conduct in accordance with the Vidhi laid down in the scriptures is only going to be possible to attain when you have been practicing it for a good amount of time. Practice makes perfect. So by extension, you can also say that that practice that you put in is also towards moksha ultimately. So even Vyavahara is correct in saying that. So both of them are correct in their respective ways. Uh, Upadhyay Yashodaji Masab, again, it's difficult not to think of him. He has composed a beautiful stavan of Nishtay and Vyavahar. It's of 5 dhals, and in these 5 dhals, in the I believe the second dhal, this entire discussion is also very well put, wherein he says that when you want to clean a particular thing, and say it requires 100 units of soap, right? Uh, and it's with the usage of the 100th unit of soap that that particular object becomes clean. Nishchayana will say, look, it's that 100th unit that made it clean. But Vyavahana says, okay, but that's look at the larger picture as well. When you started off with the first unit, that is what led to the 100th unit, and that's why it became clean. But Nishchana says, oh, if the first unit were also the cause of cleaning it altogether, then when you use the first unit of soap and you cleaned that particular object, it should have become completely pure, but that didn't happen, which means that the first unit is not the cause of completely cleaning it. So both of them they're going to argue endlessly. The answer lies in saying that it is because of the first unit that we reach the 100th unit, and for that these are acceptable viewpoints when they are in their respective places. So a lot of these examples are given uh, in the second dhal of this particular stavan. Please read it. It's very, very beautiful to understand the moksha mark better. So, okay. So, having said that, uh, here the person has become dikshit by the vidhi laid down in the scriptures, and he's supposed to engage in grahan and asevan shiksha. This particular person, what is his state? What is his state of mind? What is his attitude towards things at large? What is his nature? So, the beautiful description uh, of monkhood is briefly given in the scripture. Uh, say समलिट्ठु कंचने समसत्तु मित्ते नियत गह दुखे पसम सुह समये समम सिखमायई गुरुकुलवासी गुरुपडिबद्धे वणिये भुवत्थ दरसी न इयो हियम तत्तंति मन्नई सुस्तुसाई गुणजुत्ते तत्ताभिनिवेसा विहिपरे परम मंतोति अहिज्जय सुत्तम. It's a very beautiful and profound sutra. It says that in this manner, this Sadhu Bhagwant has reached a state of equanimity between a rock and a piece of gold. They have reached equanimity between an enemy and a friend, between friend and foe. Uh, they have liberated themselves from the sorrow of kadagraha, having false agraha, being stubborn, being obstinate. Because now there's no scope for him to be obstinate at all, because whatever he believes is jinagna, and whatever he has to do is whatever the Guru Bhagwan asks him to do. So there's no chance of refusing him, which is the second adjective used right after this is uh, he is endowed with the happiness of prasham. Sham is peace, the peace that results from the calming of kashayas. Kashayas being krodh, man, maya, lobh, etc. When these kashayas are suppressed, or the turmoil caused by them is calmed down, the Atma experiences what is known as prasham. And this sham, when it reaches a peak, when it reaches a good amount of good degree, it is called prasham. So sadhu bhagwans are endowed with the happiness of prasham, and having become capable, having become worthy of taking grahan and asevan shiksha, he takes it in a good manner, in a samyak manner. So it's very important to understand here that he's become, yes, Shazbhai. Sorry. So the meaning of prasham is the word is sham here, and the prefix is pra. Pra means prakrisht or extreme. Sham is shanti. Sham is the calm or the tranquility that you experience from the calming of the kashais. And the entire description of prasham, how a person attains and how a person floats in prasham, all of this is described. There's an entire granth dedicated for that, which is prasham rati, roaming or playing in prasham, wandering in prasham. Very beautiful granth by Umaswati Ji Maharaja, who has composed the Tattvad Sutra, worth memorizing even. So this particular person, he has now so a very interesting choice of words. Sammam Sikhamayai. He has become worthy of attaining shiksha. No matter how erudite we are, or how far we reach as Shravaks, the knowledge of the agams, particularly the knowledge of Chet Sutras, etc., is confined only to those who engage in doing the yogodhvan as laid down in the scriptures, and it is when the Guru Bhagwan judges them to be worthy of receiving that education that they are given that education. So in this manner, they accept as it comes the Grahan and Asevan Shiksha. Why? A few more adjectives describing this particular person. Because this person is Gurukul Vasi. He stays in the Gurukul. This Gurukul means that he's not staying with the Guru Bhagwan himself, he's staying with the family of the Guru Bhagwan as well. Sometimes it could so be that the Guru Bhagwan is alone, that's a different thing altogether. But when you're staying in Gurukul, there's so many benefits that accrue that sometimes there could even be disadvantages stemming from it, seeming disadvantages, but the scriptures say that these are negligible. The advantages stemming from staying in the Gurukul Vas are so important that you prioritize that. So this extends to other cases where it might so be that when the Gurukul is large, when the Guru's family is huge, say there's 40 to 50 Mahatmas in one particular group and they stay together, in certain areas it might so happen that as a last resort, they might have to cook doshit gochri for the entire group. So, certain oversmart sadhu bhagwans, or atmas in this case, they might think that, oh, why even have doshit gochri? Bhagwan says that doshit gochri is a huge, it's a huge no for sadhus. Let's split, let's live separately, singly, or maybe like two of us or three of us, and we'll practice the achars of sadhutva even better than the entire group. So this desire of stepping away from Gurukul Vas itself shows a great sign of moha. It shows that the choice is directed not by Janagna, but by the Agna of moha. And the scriptures say that in case you have to have Doshit Goshri because you're staying in Gurukul Vas, that is better than having Nirdosh Goshri by virtue of staying alone. Of course, when the Guru Bhagavan has sent you alone for some work, that's a different thing altogether. Because such a person, even though living far, is in Gurukul Vas. The idea is to live in the Nishra, in the Agnya of Guru Bhagavan. Doesn't matter where you are physically. So, he's Gurukul Vasi, Guru Padibadhe. He's Pratibadh, he's bound by the Guru's Vachan. He's Vineet, and he's Paramarth Darshi. He sees what is the actual essence in everything. Which is why the Sutrakar Bhagavan says, Na iyo hiyam tattanti. Such a beautiful maxim. He thinks to himself that there is no other Hitkar institution, there is no institution that will cause my welfare apart from this Gurukul Vas, which is why he chooses to stay in that Gurukul Vas. When we talk of Guru Pratibadh, the Tikakar Bhagavan specifies by saying that because he has Bahuman towards the Guru, the word Guru Pratibadh is mentioned. Because he's practicing external Vinay, that is in the form of, getting up when the Guru comes, giving asan to the Guru Bhagavan when he comes, going a few steps ahead to receive the Guru Bhagavan, sitting only after he sits, not walking right beside him, or not walking completely in front of him or completely behind him, but walking at an appropriate pace with him. All of these are forms of external Vinay. So he's also Vineet in this manner. And the Shastrakar Bhagavans also specify. So the Tikakar Bhagavan specifies, he quotes a few more scriptures and he says that for a Sadhu Bhagavan who stays in Gurukul, he gets Vachna from the Guru Bhagavan and from different Mahatmas in the group every day. And because of that, he attains Shruta Gyan, etc. He gets more opportunities to listen to the nature of the Jain faith, and also he gets more opportunities to explore other religions. So by learning different religions, by learning the Jain darshan also better, his faith in the Jain darshan becomes more and more firm, more stabilized. Further, because you live in Gurukul Vas, it's not just the Guru who's keeping a watch over you, but the entire line of elders above you who are looking at your conduct. And if you forget something, if you forget to do something rightful, they'll remind you by way of sarna. There's a fourfold step, just like we have sam, dam, dand, bhed. In to run a political institution, we have sarna, varna, choina, and padi choina as a form of disciplining in the Jain scriptures. So, an acharya who does not do sarna, varna, choina, padi choina, when he's required to do it, he accrues heavy karma bandh. So obviously an Acharya Bhagwan who knows his conduct would do it. He will scold the Shishyas if required, even hit them if required, to bring them to their senses. Uh, and the Shishya also being very Vineet and meeting all the requisites that are mentioned here, just right now we saw Guru Padi Badhe, Viniye, etc. He will accept that, and in fact, uh, Prashamrati Prakaran, there's a very beautiful shlok that I'm forgetting right now. In Prashamrati Prakaran, it even says that when the Guru Bhagwant scolds you, when the Guru Bhagwant gives you, warns you of something, or he tells you something in strict words, the Shishya feels that it is as if the winds from the Malay Parvat. So these are hills, God knows where. But these, the winds flowing from these hills, they're supposed to be very cool and calming. And when a Guru Bhagan scolds a particular Shishya, the Shishya thinks to himself, "Oh, I'm so blessed. It's as if the winds of the Malay Parvat are hitting my face because I feel so calm and cool, because truly I have the opportunity to have someone above me to correct me for everything that I'm doing wrong." So he takes that also very willingly, and in this way he becomes sthir. So firstly he becomes sthir in samyak gyan, but he attains shuddha gyan, by way of which he becomes sthir in his shraddha, samyak darshan, and by way of getting sarna varna choina padi choina from the Guru Bhagwan regularly, he becomes sthir in his charitra as well. So, for his lifetime, he does not do tyag of Gurukulvas, which is why the scriptures here even say that uh, dhanna avakahaye Gurukulavasam na munchanti. Blessed are those souls who till the end of their life do not leave Gurukulvas. So, now, after being in Gurukulvas, one thing that they have to do for the rest of their life, for 15 hours in different forms, is swadhyay. Swadhyay in the form of vachna, that is learning it or hearing it from the Guru Bhagwan. Pruchna, that is asking questions as they rise. Paravartana, that is repeating the contents of what has been learned from the Guru Bhagwan. Sutra and Arth both. Uh, Anupreksha, introspecting about it. And Dharmakatha, narrating it to people in the right circumstances. So, by way of this Swadhyay, which sadhus are supposed to do every day for 15 hours, even today, uh, even today. So, there, it's so important to understand that several groups, okay, then we're talking of hundreds and thousands of Mahatmas even today, their schedule, their plan of studying is structured in accordance with the timelines shown in the scriptures. So they devote 15 hours, sometimes more, sometimes less, because of certain circumstances, to studying, to learning the scriptures. Because learning is the one thing that remains consistent for the, uh, at least for the formative years of a sadhu bhagwan. So they do that. How do they do that? This is also described in the scriptures. Such a sadhu is endowed with the 8 qualities of intelligence. The 8 qualities of intelligence are described in numerous scriptures. The first is shushrusha, that is the desire to listen. The second is shravan, that is having the opportunity to listen. The third is grahan, that is, you know, understanding the meanings of the scriptures. The fourth is dharana, remembering it. The fifth is vigyan. So vigyan is defined as anadhyavasai. So uh, you know, anadhyavasai is basically the knowledge of something in an indefinite term. That is, say, uh, I think this is on in portrait mode. So you see this right now. It's probably blurred. So you see this in my hand, and you see maybe it's something. Now this knowledge that this is something is vigyan. It is in the form of anadhyavasai. You don't know definitely what it is. So uh, so if you see a particular rope-like thing, is it a rope or a snake? So this is basically in the form of vigyan, which is in the form of anadhyavasai. Then comes sanshay. Sanshay is a doubt, and when sanshay is cleared, what you get is gyan which is free of viparyas, gyan which is free of any confusion, any adulteration, or any corruption. After that comes the next quality, which is iha, which is to think, to to logically raise new and new questions. Uh, and the second and the last part uh, of intelligence, the eighth quality, is apoha, which is definite knowledge. So then after understanding this, he can say, oh, this is definitely a book, it's brown in color, it has so and so written on it. So that knowledge comes after clearing the doubt and using different types of logic, using different logical tools, raising questions to look at it from different ways. So so the gyan that this sadhu attains is clarified, is purified by Vigyan, Iha, and Apoha. So decision, this decision that you arrive at, now this is in context of a book that I explained, but the same is to be applied in case of understanding the tattva. What is the fundamental? What is the truth? So this nirnay that you arrive at, this decision, this resolution that you arrive at, is known as tattva bhinivesh. Abhinivesh is of several types. Abhinivesh is to have an insistence, is to have, you know, is to insist that this is as it is. This is the truth. To assert it. Abhinivesh could also be of a wrong type. There could be people who are stubborn or obstinate about a wrong belief, and that is when the mithyatva that they have is abhiniveshik mithyatva. Here we're talking of the exact opposite, that is tattva bhinivesh, insisting on this being the tattva, on this being as it is. So such a person, he he's endowed, he's constantly engaged in the vidhi of the scriptures. His aim is also set. Again, he's free of all desires of this lok or the next life, and he's a mukshu, he's moksharthi. This sadhu, he studies the scripture believing it to be the param mantra. So the scripture, siddhant, agams, sutra, all of these are synonymous terms. He believes these to be the param mantra, the supreme mantra to cure the disease of birth and death, to cure the disease of sansar. So the Tikakar Bhagwant, in his Tika, the Shishya asks, why is the sutra described as a param mantra? And the Tikakar Bhagwant, in one line, he simply replies that this sutra, the study of this scripture, cures the disease of rag and dvesh. It destroys them altogether. It cures the poison of rag and dvesh, which is why they're described as the param mantra, the supreme mantra. It's such a beautiful way to describe the sutras as well. And while we conclude with this today, but while we do that, let's also think once again that the importance of swadhyay is marked so high in the Jain Shasan. There could be, there could be the greatest tapasis, the greatest poets, the greatest charitra sampan mahatmas, but without shruta gyan, without without attaining the knowledge of the scriptures, all of it is almost worthless. Because we saw the sequence also. It is when the shruta gyan becomes large and refined in quality, that is when your faith also becomes more stabilized, and only then do you also become more stabilized in the achar of charitra. So shruta gyan ultimately is the foundation of it all, and this is the exact reason that Bhagwan has asked sadhu bhagwans to dedicate as many as 15 prahars a day to studying the scriptures. Which I mean, 15 hours, 5 prahars a day. So very important to bear in mind. With that, we conclude today's Swadhyay session. If there's any questions, please let us know.
Parshva, which Gochari is characterized as doshit?
So there are 42 different uh, forms of dosh that are mentioned in the scriptures. 16 of these dosh are brought about by the sadhu bhagwant because of their recklessness. 16 of them are brought about by the householder by their recklessness, and there are 10 dosh which are brought about by the two of them together acting in harmony. So these are mentioned in the scriptures. I think uh, I might have translated them in English sometime in the group like a couple of years ago. Let me look for that. If not, uh, there's definitely a lot of material available about them.
Can you share it later, maybe?
Sure, sure. I'll do it right away.
Okay, thanks.
Are there any questions? Okay, seeing none, we'll end this further today. Thank you for staying this long. I know it's a few minutes over 2 hours, but thank you for sticking around. It's a Sunday, people are lazy. All of you have taken the time out. So, a lot of anumodana for that. And if I've said anything during the course of these three sutras, which is against Janagnya, I absolutely seek Mitchamadakram for that. Um, and yeah, pranam to everyone.